Hey guys, we're back today with a little more DIY. Today we're talking headlight restoration. As you can see here, these headlights are they've seen better days. So we're going to talk about what it takes to make them nice and shiny again today. Again, this is my opinion. This is by no means the only way to repair headlight assemblies. And honestly, you're going to get the best results by buying new assemblies. But there's a couple problems with that. One, if you get OEM, they're incredibly expensive. And a lot of times you gamble with aftermarket. They will look nice a lot of times. A lot of times they don't fit very nice and they're just junk in general. So this is a way that I found that you can restore your own headlight assemblies at home with stuff that's mostly found around your house. So this is just how I do it and how I've achieved good results in the past. So what are we going to use? So what I use is toothpaste, believe it or not. The toothpaste I'm going to be using, you want to use one I've found that has a little bit of a grit in it, something like this. It's kind of sandy, you know. If you use something like AIM or like a toothpaste gel, it doesn't work nearly as well. So I use toothpaste, an old toothbrush. You're going to want some type of solvent. I've found that acetone works the best, so that's what I use. Careful when you use this. Don't get it all over your hands. Try not to breathe it in. Then I'm going to use a rags, a Scotch-Brite pad, and some sandpaper. Pretty fine grit. This is about 240 grit sandpaper. And we use a little cup full of water too, just to get on our sandiest part. So, now that we know our materials and we've seen our cloudy headlights, let's get started. So for the purpose of this video, just so I can show you a before and an after, I'm only going to be doing one headlight today, and then we'll look at the difference between one that's not touched and still cloudy, and one that we do this on. Alright, so I'm going to set one headlight aside. Here's our cloudy housing. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a rag, dip it in some water, and I'm just going to get the main pieces of dust off of this housing here. Just the main big chunks of dust and stuff from sitting on the shelf. Once I've wiped my headlight assembly down and gotten the bigger chunks of dirt and debris off, I'm going to take some acetone and wipe it down one more time. Be careful not to get this on your hands. Try not to breathe it in. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. Just get some of it on the rag there. Wipe that housing down just like this. Once I've wiped all this down, now I'm just going to dry it off real quick. And one more side note, when you're doing this, make sure you use a rag where there's not a whole bunch of little particles that are going to come off onto your surface, especially before you get to the painting step. Right now, not as crucial because we have a lot more steps to go before we're ready to clear coat anything. Make it nice and dry. And I don't know if you can see this, but you can see that even just with the acetone, it's already kind of made the headlight assembly more uniform in its cloudiness. I've seen videos out there where guys use bug spray, and yeah, it works for a little bit, but the reason it works is similar to why our solvents work, is because it's actually eating away that top layer of plastic. But if that's all you do, it's just going to come back. It's not going to last. Alright, so that's why we're going to take these next few extra steps. So now that I've got my assembly clean with the water and the solvents, got all the major debris off, I'm going to go ahead with the toothpaste. Like I said, make sure to try to get toothpaste with some sort of grit in it so that it kind of bites in a little more. Any of the gels don't seem to be very effective. So I'm going to take this toothpaste, I'm going to cover it, and then I'm going to work it in with an old toothbrush. And I'm going to do this for quite a while, so I'll just kind of show you, and then I'll skip through ahead to where we get to the next step. And it does take quite a bit of toothpaste. It does take quite a bit of toothpaste to do this next step. Then I'm just going to take my toothbrush, I'm going to work it in. So you can see I got the toothpaste pretty evenly spread out on the lens. I'm just going to go ahead for a few minutes and work this in just a little bit, then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so now I've worked the toothpaste into the headlight for about 15 minutes or so, and make sure you go both directions. So I'll do circles, and then I'll go forward, and I'll go up and down, and just make sure I cover the whole surface of the light with the toothbrush. Next, I'm going to take my sandpaper first before the Scotch-Brite pad. I'm going to take the sandpaper, I'm going to dunk it in water. I like to leave the toothpaste on there kind of as a buffer so I don't get quite as aggressive with my sandpaper, and then I'm just going to do light strokes all the way around while making sure I keep my sandpaper nice and wet. So again, I leave the toothpaste on. You wouldn't necessarily have to, it just seems to take away the intensity of your sandpaper. Make sure you're going with a fine grit. This is about 240 grit. Alright, so now our headlight's been sanded as well. I did that for about 10 minutes continuously. Make sure you cover the whole surface area of your headlight. Now that I've done that, I'm going to rinse this off and get the toothpaste out of here. Now at this point your light's going to be cleaned off and you're going to see the scratches in there and pieces that you still have to get out. At this point I like to wet sand with a Scotch-Brite pad and get some of these little things out. This is the time consuming part. It's going to, the result you get is going to depend exactly on how much effort and how picky you were in sanding out your headlights. So now take your time, use plenty of water, maybe a finer grit sandpaper if you got it, and try to get as many of those scratches out as you can. Alright, I'm going to move on to the acetone step. Now like I said, this is actually going to kind of take a top layer of this plastic off the light, so sometimes it's going to actually look worse. Don't be afraid of that. Again, be careful not to get this on your hands. The next step, just fold up a rag just like this a couple times, get some of this on there, and go over the whole light assembly. Do this a couple times, spend some time on it. Make sure you cover every surface multiple times. One thing I forgot to mention in the beginning of the video is once I'm done with my acetone step, use some water, wipe it all down. After I've done that, I like to take some sort of rubbing compound, apply it to the light, and work that in as well. Alright, so now I've worked our buffing compound in, I've taken it out. I'm going to run one more thing of acetone over it, then we're going to go to clear coat. Alright, so here you can see our results from before to after. And one thing that's really going to tie this all together is wait about 24 hours and you can actually buff this again. Alright, but you got to give the paint and the clear just a little bit of a chance to cure as well. Again, I found that the more time you spend with this, the better results you're going to get. One crucial step I found is to get all of that buffing compound and toothpaste and all of that debris off of there and make sure it's good and dry before you apply your clear. When you are at the acetone step, don't be alarmed when you start to see it cloud up, because it is taking a layer of that plastic off. Make sure you don't leave too much on there or leave it on for too long, because it will actually damage the housing and you won't be able to continue. So again, the final step to tie all this together is going to be to wait 24 hours and then to polish it one more time and put the housings back in. Hope this helped you, save you a few bucks, and your headlight assemblies can be restored as well.